December 1944. Snow blankets the Ardennes forest, hiding what would soon be one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. The Battle of the Bulge wasn't just a battle. It was a desperate, high-stakes gamble by Hitler to turn the tide of the war. This is the story of the last great German offensive, and the bravery that broke it. By the end of 1944, the German army was on the defensive across Europe. The D-Day landings had succeeded, Paris was liberated, and the Allies were pushing the Nazis back on the Western Front. Yet Hitler still believed he could split the Allied forces and capture the critical supply port of Antwerp, a move that would cut off the British and American armies from one another. He chose the Ardennes, a rugged, forested region he hoped would offer cover for a surprise attack. Many of Hitler's commanders were wary of the plan, but the Nazi leader pushed forward with Operation Watch on the Rhine. On December 16, 1944, the German assault began, catching the Allies off guard. At 5:30 a.m., the Germans launched an intense artillery bombardment, followed by waves of infantry and tanks. The foggy, snowy weather grounded Allied air support, giving German forces a rare advantage. The attack hit sectors manned by exhausted and relatively inexperienced American soldiers who were caught off guard. Panzer divisions, especially the infamous Waffen-SS units and Tiger tanks, pushed through American lines, inflicting heavy casualties. It wasn't long before the offensive pushed a literal bulge into Allied lines, giving the battle its name. The Germans advanced rapidly, aiming to capture strategic crossroads and cut off Allied supplies. The town of Bastogne became a focal point of the German advance. Despite being surrounded, the 101st Airborne Division, along with elements of other units, held firm. Led by Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, the American forces at Bastogne resisted multiple attacks. McAuliffe's response to a German demand for surrender was simply nuts. This single word became a rallying cry for American troops and remains a symbol of the spirit that held Bastogne against overwhelming odds. While Bastogne's defenders were under siege, General George S. Patton was preparing an audacious counter-move. In less than 48 hours, Patton managed to pivot his Third Army from the south to reinforce Bastogne, covering terrain that would have taken most armies weeks. On December 26th, Patton's troops broke through the German encirclement, bringing desperately needed supplies and reinforcements to Bastogne. This marked a critical turning point in the battle, blunting the German advance and boosting Allied morale. While the battle raged, war crimes added another dark chapter. At Malmedy, German SS soldiers murdered over 80 American prisoners of war, sparking outrage and steeling Allied resolve. This massacre became one of many instances where the brutality of the Nazi regime was laid bare, further motivating Allied forces to press forward at all costs. As January arrived, so did a change in weather. The fog and snow cleared, allowing Allied air forces to launch devastating airstrikes on German positions and supply lines. The Luftwaffe, already stretched thin, could do little to stop the bombers and fighter planes that now had free rein over the skies. With air support back in the fight, the Allied forces began a concerted counterattack. German forces, already running low on fuel and ammunition, struggled to hold their positions. The tide had turned, and what began as a daring offensive soon became a disastrous retreat. The Battle of the Bulge lasted until late January 1945. The German forces suffered over 100,000 casualties, losses they could not replace. The Allies paid a heavy price too, with nearly 90,000 casualties, including killed, wounded, and missing. But while both sides endured enormous losses, the strategic impact was clear. Germany was now defenseless against the Allied advance into the heart of the Reich. The Battle of the Bulge left a lasting legacy. For the Germans, it marked the final, desperate gamble of a crumbling empire. For the Allies, it was a testament to resilience and tenacity in the face of overwhelming odds. The soldiers who fought here, who stood their ground in the freezing cold, who held Bastogne, who endured the horror of Malmedy, did more than just survive. They paved the way for the final victory in Europe, ending a war that had taken millions of lives and reshaped the world forever. As we remember the Battle of the Bulge, let us honor the courage and sacrifice of those who fought. It's a reminder of how fragile peace can be and how quickly it can be taken for granted. If you're moved by the history of these courageous soldiers, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Share this story with others who appreciate the sacrifices of those who came before us.